Job 26, verse 5, the spirits of the dead or the shades Raphaim, departed ancestors or spirits, tremble, and they're beneath, Job says, or under the waters.
Yeah, I think these are not human beings, because human beings, when they're dead, are dead. The dead, as it says in Ecclesiastes 9, 5, and 10, the dead know nothing at all. There's no activity in Sheol, where all of you human beings are going, inevitably, unless you live until the day of the second coming. But these are then probably a reference to the demonic spirits that survived. They're not dead, and they were announced to. In fact, Jesus went off. It's very important not to lose track of the very simple narrative there. Jesus suffered for sins once and for all, that he might bring you to God. After being put to death, he became alive in the spiritual realm as a spirit immortal person. That was his condition. In that state, that translation is exactly right. In that risen state, he, who's the here? Not Noah. It's Jesus. Went off, traveled off, whatever means to change location. He went off and made a proclamation, I think a neutral one, just announcing his success, not saving them, but he made it to those fallen spirits who were then in Tartarus, who in the past, the time of the ark being built, had sinned. That's Genesis 6. At that time, 8 people, not spirits this time, but 8 souls, meaning human beings, were saved through water. This was a stupendous event for the Bible writers. It's been inevitably a source of huge discussion, argumentation, mostly because people didn't understand that when you're dead, you're dead. Once you get that clear, Jesus cannot be preaching to dead human beings. Dead human beings cannot respond to any preaching. But he did preach, in fact, to fallen spirits, those ones who were very evil in the days of Genesis 6.
So these things, Anthony, this Raphaim, these shades, this Penefmata, these spirits, they're obviously not human beings, fallen angelic beings, and they're currently down there. So the question I have is, why didn't God just wipe them out at first? Why keep them in this state, in this realm?
Yeah, you'd have to ask God that. I don't know. He's kept them down there for a good purpose. And they are part human being, don't forget. They're the product of a mismarriage when those angels left their lawful habitation and committed extreme, excessive fornication, Jude says.
You're talking about the giants.
The giants were the product of those mismarriages. And they terrorized and tyrannized the world. Nephilim, absolutely. And those, when they died, had an immortal element in them. They had an element of angel, which cannot die. And so they are down there in some form, exactly what I don't know. And all of this is dealt with in the book of Enoch a lot. And Peter and Jude were obviously very interested in that story. So 1 Peter 3 is an important part of the biblical story.
So you can have a being that's a hybrid.
Yes.
So you're talking about a thing that has 2 types of beings? Like double nature?
They're a mixture of angel.
Mixed.
That's a horrible hybrid, an attempt to counterfeit God's creation of Adam and Eve, who are purely human, to outdo God. And that's what Satan is trying to do all the time. He produced this awful event.
That would give credence to the so-called double nature of Christ, then.
Yes, it might be a parallel. So they eventually came up in church circles with a double nature Christ, who is 100% God.
So that type of mixing is actually demonic, you're saying?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's transgender.
Wow.
The same thing is coming up now. Transgender, you don't want to mess with those things. And so the Trinitarian, according to Dr. Millard Erickson, the Trinitarian evangelical, he says that in order to be a good Trinitarian, and I quote, he says this, to be a good Trinitarian, you must say, he are 3 and they is 1. And I say you're breaking the laws of language. Don't do that. You're talking nonsense. Happily, the verb is a singular verb, and the verb are is a plural one. Don't want to start messing with language, otherwise communication breaks down and we're in massive difficulty.
Yeah, well, here's an interesting one, Anthony, from Dr. Millard.
Yes, there he is.
In God in 3 persons, we have said that God is 3 and that he is 1, and that his 3ness is with respect to a different aspect than his 1ness. How can we grasp the reference of these terms? How can we ascertain that they really refer to anything objective? So in other words, this is a sort of, I mean, I hate to be so blunt and so, I guess, judgmental, but I have to judge.
Yes.
So it's really a demonic position to
Yes.
mix the categories, mix the natures of
Yes,
something.
and to break the laws of language.
Is that what you're saying?
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad. I don't know if he's still living, but we should write to him because he's very honest here. How can we be sure that we're really saying anything? How do we know that this three persons in one essence really refers to anything objective? And the answer is it doesn't. You're talking nonsense. You're talking about nothing.